Greetings. This is Dr. Della Welch again, continuing on with our philosophy lectures, and our topic today is utilitarianism, Utilitarianism, and the one that we think most about is John Stuart Mill. It's often known as the principle of utility, or also known as the greatest happiness principle. An action is right to the extent that it increases the total happiness of the affected parties. An action is wrong to the extent that it decreases the total happiness of the affected parties. Happiness may have many definitions, such as advantage, benefit, good, or pleasure. I also think of it like a mathematical problem. Let's assume that you are on a stranded island and there's one health clinic and there's a big disease going around, and the doctor at the clinic has 6 shots that he can give to 6 different patients. Or there's one very, very ill patient that can take all 6 of the shots. Well, what would utilitarianism say? John Stuart Mill would say, go to the one that has the greatest number. What mathematically is the greatest? That would be the 6. So the shots should be given 1 each to each of the 6 people. There's also a famous case about a trolley. And if the trolley went one way, it would kill 1 person. If the trolley went the other way, 6 people would be killed. So which way are you going to go? Well, you don't think of the morality of the situation, and the 1 person may be your sister. Each life is considered the same under John Stuart Mill. Well, the way that would preserve the most lives would be to kill the 1 and preserve the 6 with the trolley. So the greatest happiness for the greatest number is the concept that you look at. John Stuart Mill also wrote a famous book called On Liberty. And remember that the utilitarianism looks at the result. For example, it's also called consequentialism. What are the consequences? Or it's called ends-based, ENDS-based. And the bottom line, perhaps we would say that this is the greatest theory today, is utilitarianism. That's what modern businesses use today. So there are other factors to remember, that it's very different than Kant and deontology. Remember that Kant and deontology wanted to pick the absolute rule. You follow the absolute rule and you never violate it. But here we say, which option creates the greatest happiness? Well, remember that John Stuart Mill was born in London in 1806. He was the eldest son of James Mill, and his father wanted to make him an intellectual giant. But unfortunately, he had a mental breakdown when he was in his 20s because he was so pushed by his father to succeed. His mental crisis was actually at age 21 from severe strain. He had a girlfriend, Mrs. Taylor, that he courted for 20 years while she was married to someone else. And when that someone else died, her husband, Mill married Mrs. Taylor in 1851. She was a feminist and great supporter of women's rights, and so John Stuart Mill became a great supporter of women's rights. John Stuart Mill identified heavily with Jeremy Bentham, who was the first to come up with this idea of the greatest happiness. This will be the end of our first recording, and then we will go on to the next recording.